You reach for the light switch before your eyes even open. It's automatic, a reflex older than the switch itself. You tell yourself it's just habit, just comfort, just the smell of a freshly painted room you haven't fully learned yet. But the real answer is far stranger. Your fear of the dark isn't a glitch in your brain, it's a message. And it's older than language, older than fire, older than the idea of a house with four walls and a locked door. Think about the last time you walked into a dark room and felt your hand slap the wall, searching for a switch before your mind had even registered you were afraid. Your heart rate had already climbed, your pupils had already widened. None of that was a choice. It happened before you had time to think the word dark. So who decided this was how you'd react? Your ancestors did. Not the ones who wrote books or built cities, the ones who slept in the open, under a sky with no ceiling, in a world where the dark was not empty. It was full. Full of teeth, full of claws, full of things that could see far better at night than any human ever could. For nearly all of human history, night was the most dangerous part of every single day. Predators hunted under cover of darkness because it gave them an advantage your ancestors simply did not have. Human eyes are built for daylight, for color, for detail. In low light, that advantage disappears almost completely. You become slow, you become blind, you become prey. The humans who felt nothing when the sun went down, who wandered out casually into pitch black, who ignored the rustle in the grass because it was probably nothing, those humans did not tend to survive long enough to pass on that calm. The ones who survived were the anxious ones, the ones whose hearts pounded at shadows, the ones who stayed close to the fire, close to the group, close to safety. That fear kept them alive, and it kept getting passed down, generation after generation, until it became something wired so deep into you that no amount of modern comfort has managed to switch it off. This is what evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Nesse has spent decades studying. The idea that emotions like fear are not malfunctions of the mind, but finely tuned defense systems, shaped by millions of years of exactly the kind of threats your ancestors faced after sunset. Fear, in his framework, is not something broken in you. It is something built in you, on purpose, by a very long and very unforgiving process. But here's where it gets stranger. You don't live in that world anymore. You live behind locked doors, in climate-controlled rooms, under a sky with almost no predators left that could reach you while you sleep. And yet the fear hasn't updated. Your body still runs the old software. It still treats a dark hallway the same way your ancestors treated a dark savanna, as a space where anything could be waiting. Have you ever noticed how much louder your own house sounds at 2 a.m.? How a creak that means nothing at noon suddenly feels like a message at midnight? That's not paranoia. That's a survival system still doing its job, decades after the threat it was built for mostly disappeared. There's something else your ancestors discovered, almost by accident, that changed the entire relationship humans have with the dark. Fire. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner spent years studying the Juhawansi, a hunter-gatherer community in southern Africa, and found something remarkable about what happens once the sun goes down and a fire is lit. During the day, conversations were practical. Complaints, gossip, arguments over small disputes. But at night, around the fire, the entire tone of conversation changed. People told stories. They shared myths, memories, jokes, and cautionary tales about the world beyond the firelight. Fire didn't just push back the darkness. It created a small circle of safety where humans could finally relax enough to imagine, to bond, to pass down knowledge that had nothing to do with survival and everything to do with meaning. The dark surrounding that fire wasn't just dangerous, it was the reason the light in the middle mattered so much. So the fear of the dark and the comfort of light grew up together, side by side, shaping each other. One gave the other its power. Which raises a strange question. What happens to a species that fears the dark once it learns how to make its own light whenever it wants? For most of human history, night was uniform. When the sun went down, it went down for everyone, and there was very little anyone could do about it except wait for morning. That changed fast, in evolutionary terms almost instantly, once electric light became common. Sleep researcher Russell Foster, who studies circadian rhythms at Oxford, has pointed to something unsettling buried in that shift. Human bodies evolved around a very consistent cycle of light and darkness, one that regulated hormones, alertness, mood, and rest. Artificial light didn't just solve the problem of seeing in the dark. It quietly rewired how humans experience night itself, keeping brains alert long after they were designed to start winding down. You didn't just remove the darkness, you disrupted the rhythm the darkness used to enforce. That's part of why so many people now lie awake at 1 a.m., phone glowing, mind racing, even though nothing outside their window is remotely dangerous. The ancient fear system is still scanning for threats. The ancient rhythm system has been told to ignore the sunset. Both are working against you at exactly the same time. Isn't it strange that the very thing built to protect you can now be the thing keeping you from resting? Here's the part that tends to surprise people the most. You are not actually afraid of the dark itself. Darkness is nothing. It's the absence of light, nothing more. What you're actually afraid of is what the dark hides. Your mind, deprived of visual information, starts filling in the blanks, and it doesn't fill them in with something calm. This is why a coat on a chair can look like a crouching figure, why a tree branch scraping a window can sound like something trying to get in. Your brain isn't malfunctioning when it does this. It's doing exactly what kept your ancestors alive, assuming the worst first and asking questions later, because the cost of ignoring a real threat was so much higher than the cost of a false alarm. A rustle that turns out to be wind costs you a moment of fear. A rustle that turns out to be a predator, ignored, could cost everything. So evolution built you to lean toward fear every single time, because caution was cheap and carelessness was fatal. You still carry that ancient math around with you every single night, which brings us back to that hand on the light switch, flicking it on before your mind has even caught up. It's not weakness, it's not childishness, it's a message from every human who came before you, every single one who made it through the night by staying alert, staying close to the fire, staying just a little bit afraid. Tonight, when you reach for that switch without even thinking, you're not just chasing away shadows, you're repeating a habit that has been passed down for longer than memory itself. A quiet inheritance from every ancestor who looked into the dark and decided, wisely, not to trust it completely.